One of my favorite things about DIY is that some of the most beautiful home decor doesn't start out looking beautiful at all. Sometimes it's a thrifted basket, a Dollar Tree mirror, or an everyday piece that's easy to overlook. Today, I'm transforming unexpected finds into elevated home decor that's budget-friendly, simple to do, and designed to look right at home with the pieces you already love. Because creating a home that feels custom isn't about spending more, it's about seeing the possibilities. Now grab your coffee, get comfy, and let's dive in. So I found this basket at Goodwill for just $2.99, and the minute I saw it, I pictured it as a hanging pendant light. These baskets have become so popular in designer homes, but they can come with a pretty hefty price tag. And this one had great shape, great scale, and I knew it had the potential to become something really special. The natural finish was beautiful, and this piece could really work in just about any room of the house. But I decided to hang mine over the patio table, and since my outdoor furniture is a darker color, I gave the basket a few coats of Rust-Oleum Satin Espresso Spray Paint. That deeper finish tied everything together and will make it look more custom to the space. Next, I ordered this hanging rope light kit from Amazon for right around $8. I drilled a series of small holes, and with a box knife, I carefully worked at making the opening just large enough. It wasn't the prettiest hole I've ever made, but once everything was installed, you'd never know it was there. A quick coat of spray paint over the cut edges finished it right off. Then it was time to hang it. I measured where I wanted the pendant centered over the table, drilled 2 holes in the stucco, tapped in the anchors, and screwed in the hooks. I have to admit, I was a little nervous about drilling into the concrete, but with the right bit, my drill handled it beautifully. Once everything was in place, I threaded the rope through the basket, adjusted the height to about 30 inches above the table, added the light bulb, and flipped the switch. I wasn't expecting it to completely change the feel of the space, but it did. The warm light makes the patio feel so much cozier in the evenings, and it finally gives us lighting we've always wanted over the table. It's hard to believe this started as a $2.99 Goodwill basket. So I've loved the look of these old world stone troughs for a long time, but they can be incredibly expensive. What I love most is how versatile they are. They make beautiful planters, but I can also picture one on a patio table holding napkins and flatware for entertaining, or even indoors styled with towels, candles, or seasonal decor. So today I'm gonna see if I can recreate the same timeless look using this Dollar Tree galvanized planter. Next thing I needed to do was drill a few drainage holes so it could function as a planter. Next, I gave the entire surface a really good sanding to remove as much of the shiny, slick surface. This way, as we build, it gives the piece more places for everything to grip onto. And since the inspiration planter is much more rectangular, I gently reshaped the sides to get it a little closer to that trowel look. To help everything bond together, I brushed on a coat of concrete bonding adhesive. This step is well worth taking because it helps the concrete adhere much better to the metal. Next came the chicken wire. It gives the concrete something to grab onto while helping build that chunky, old world texture we're after. I just wrap it around and use my metal tin snips to trim off the excess. It's super easy to work with, and I actually had it left over from a previous project. But it's super inexpensive, and I'll make sure to link all the supplies in this video below. Now, one thing I had trouble with was the inside edge. It kept wanting to spring back into place. So I added a few tiny drops of E6000 and clamped it down until it dried. The glue isn't holding the concrete, and it's not going to. It's simply keeping the wire exactly where I wanted it while I worked. To prepare the Quikrete, I sifted out the larger stones, then mixed it with bonding adhesive and water until it was about the consistency of peanut butter. Thick enough to stay put, but still easy to spread and press into the chicken wire. I worked in stages, doing the bottom first, working my way up until I was molding around the top edges to give it that soft, worn look. I think this was my favorite part. I felt like a sculptor and enjoyed playing with the concrete so much. It's got me looking around my house now for something else to do this technique to. Oh, and one quick tip though. I'm using disposable containers and plastic spoons because you never want to wash concrete down your sink. Even on my hands, I brush off as much as I can into the trash can before rinsing them. Now, once everything was dry for 24 hours, it was time for paint. I began with watered down browns, soft whites, a paintbrush, and some paper towels. A little misting with water and plenty of blotting slowly started creating the look of aged stone. There wasn't any one magic color. It was the layering that brought it to life. To finish it off, I rubbed potting soil over the entire surface. It settled into all those tiny crevices and added just enough age to make it feel like this planter had been around for years. And to make sure everything stayed in place, I protected it with one final coat of clear matte sealer. For now, I styled it with seasonal flowers, but I left them right in their nursery pots. That way I can easily swap them out throughout the seasons. Summer flowers today, mums in the fall, poinsettias at Christmas, and who knows, it may end up inside my house holding something next week. But for now, I love how it looks with my begonias. So this next project was inspired by all of the beautiful new mirrors Dollar Tree just put out. Have you seen them yet? There's so many different styles, but I keep coming back to this one with the decorative scroll work. I know it's a mirror, but I couldn't help seeing it as an old iron riser or plant stand instead. And because this one is going outside, I wanted to remove the mirror. I didn't want to risk it breaking, and besides, I'm a little superstitious. Now, using my heat gun on low, I slowly warmed the adhesive holding the mirror in place, and after a couple of minutes it lifted right out. Next, I glued these large wooden beads onto each corner to create the feet. Once those were secure, it was time for paint. I started with black chalk paint, and before it had a chance to dry completely, I layered on watered down dark brown. By dipping my brush into water first, then into paint, I could build up the color a little at a time until it started looking a little more like aged rusted iron than painted plastic. Once everything was dry, I sealed it with a coat of clear matte spray sealer. And here's how it looks styled a couple of ways. This lantern was another thrift store find, and for $4.99, I couldn't leave it behind. I loved the size, and I knew it had so much potential. The white finish wasn't really my style, but that was an easy fix. I sprayed it with a few coats of matte black spray paint, which completely changed the look and gave it a much more timeless feel. Originally, my plan was to place this lamp base down inside the lantern so I could put it on a timer instead of using a candle. I picked up this 2-pack on Amazon. I know the second one will come in handy during the holidays, and it was slightly cheaper that way. But when I took everything out of the packaging, the lamp base was just a little too large to fit through the opening. I probably should have measured first, but sometimes that's just how DIY goes. So instead of forcing, we pivot. I turned the lamp base upside down and found a plastic lid, actually a takeout lid that fit perfectly over the top to hide all of the wiring. After painting it black, I glued it in place with E6000. Then I drilled a couple of small pilot holes through the handles and attached the lamp base with tiny screws so everything would stay nice and secure. Now I can easily change the light bulb whenever I need to, and I don't have to worry about the top blowing off. I love that this welcomes guests with a warm light instead of a candle, and because it's on a timer, it'll come on automatically every evening and I don't have to think about it. It's also one of those pieces that's easily changed with the seasons. A little greenery, flowers, or holiday accents on top, and it can look completely different throughout the year. This next project was an unexpected find while waiting in line at HomeGoods. They really get you there with all those last-minute purchases. But when I saw this glass soap dispenser, I thought we might be able to turn it into one of those stone-looking Grecian planters. Her hair detail and face were just perfect. Once I got home, I emptied out the soap into another container and gave her a quick coat of Zinsser primer. Once that was dry, and to create that aged stone look, I mixed baking soda into my white paint with a little water. It just adds enough texture to make the surface feel more like weathered concrete than smooth ceramic. Once I had a layer of white, I dabbed on a light shade of gray mixed with the white, slowly building up the finish until it looked like it had a little history behind it, but leaving some white underneath peeking through. Once everything was dry, I tucked in a few leftover eucalyptus stems from a previous wreath project, and that was all it needed. I wasn't sure where this one would end up, but I found a permanent home on a shelf in my bathroom. It's one of those little touches that I didn't know I needed, but HomeGoods did. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday.